37 years ago, there was a Soviet shoot down of a flight, KAL-007.
I'm coming before you tonight about the Korean airline massacre, the attack by the Soviet Union against 269 innocent men, women, and children aboard an unarmed Korean passenger plane. This crime against humanity must never be forgotten, here or throughout the world.
On that flight were over 200 innocent people, including Congressman Larry McDonald, probably the leading anti-communist congressman in Congress, a highly respected individual, even by his political opponents, and also the chairman of the John Birch Society. And there is still a lot of mystery around what happened with that shoot down. So today we have with us Bert Schlossberg, probably the world's premier expert, at least on the outside of what happened regarding that crash. He wrote the definitive book on this, Rescue of KAL-007. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that. Bert, thank you so much for being with us.
It's good to be here. Thank you, Alex, for having me.
Excellent. So, Bert, give us a little bit. A lot of the people who are watching this, my generation, it happened before I was even born, will have very little idea of what happened. In many cases, even no knowledge whatsoever of what happened. So, would you give us kind of a brief retelling of what happened with KAL-007?
Yeah, well, this is a saga, really. It was the shoot down of a passenger plane carrying 269 people. That includes the crew and the passengers. And the plane was shot down. Everybody thought that it exploded. And if you remember, the Time magazine had the plane actually exploding in the air, but there was no thought of survivors when this had happened. I got involved because my wife's father and her cousin were passenger aboard the plane. And we, like everybody else, thought that the plane just exploded and everybody was gone. It was hard to take, but eventually we accepted that fact. Well, we immigrated to Israel, and we settled in a neighborhood that was right opposite a hill upon which was the research center for prisons, psych prisons, and forced labor concentration camps of the USSR. We didn't know anything about that, but they had learned, got information about this flight. They learned it through their debriefing of Soviet immigrants to Israel, finding out what the gulags were like, what they had learned about the military, and so on, and amassing this data. And among that data, they debriefed one of the military men that were in the radar station that had followed this flight. They followed the flight during its stalking, when it was stalked by the Soviets, during the shoot down, and after the shoot down, of all things, they followed it level at a 5,000-meter flight for over 12 minutes until it got over a small Soviet island called Moneron Island. Then it made circles around Moneron Island and descent, that is a spiral descent, and went off the screen just over the water of the Tartar Straits. Now, it went off the screen not because it exploded, as everybody had thought that it had done minutes previously, but because of the curvature of the Earth, Soviet radar could not follow it. And so that's sort of the essence of the flight. And my work was to trace the flight of after the time that it was attacked by two missiles, and traced it to the water. And my work was to put the transcripts of the Soviet stations together. Each one of those transcripts, the rolls of the transcript, had time coordinates, and it had never been done, and I put them together. And lo and behold, I could see what that Soviet radar operator had seen, a safe landing about to happen.
Yeah, so wow, that's incredible. So the official story was that the plane was blown up, that there were no survivors, and yet you've compiled all sorts of evidence indicating that that is not the case, that in fact there were survivors. What do we know about what may have happened to the survivors, and how do we know that? Have there been any official investigations or anything that would help shed light on this?
Okay, here's what we know previously, and just in the last couple of years, more information has come out. And in my own estimation, up until a couple of years, I've been doing this for over 20 years in my involvement, but I've never been able to say that I have proof that there not only that the plane survived, was maneuverable, and then landed on the water, but that there were survivors. And we found out information where the survivors were probably sent to. So so I would say that there was evidence. Some of it was very strong evidence for what I just said. But now I could say that I have proof. That is, I have no doubt whatsoever, and I'm able to communicate to other people. And this has all come about in the last couple of years. Okay, how we know this was by a system of, you can call it informers or espionage. What it was is that this research center in Israel actually was run by a major that was involved in interrogation and in investigation in the Soviet Union in the Krasnodar region, which is near the Crimea, in Soviet times. In actuality, he was spying for the United States and for Israel, and acknowledged that. And he spent 10 years in the harshest of prisons, and then was sent in exile to Kazakhstan. He was released with expectation that he would die. He did not die. He immigrated to Israel, set up this what would you call research center, and sent out former Jewish people that had become Israeli citizens. They went back to the Soviet Union and lived a very dangerous life. And some of them settled near the gulags, and some of them had other contacts with the KGB. And that's how, little by little, they were able to amass this data that indeed the people were saved, they were rescued, they were abducted, and then placed into prisons and other living conditions. Now, Alex, should I just run where we think that they were placed and then go on to the new proof? Is that okay, Alex, if I
Yeah,
go through?
absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Larry McDonald, which is the point of interest that I think you and so many people, myself, have come. He was a friend of the chief director of this research center. The research center chief was Avraham Shifrin. Larry McDonald was a friend of him. They had both been together in anti-Soviet work, and Avraham Shifrin had testified before the Congress. And from this, his interest led to knowledge of this, what we would call the itinerary of Larry McDonald after the plane was shot down. He was taken with other passengers, and they were rescued by Soviet boats, and we have the transcripts of this Soviet rescue operation, and they were abducted and taken by boats and helicopters and civilian trawler that were called into the location of the downing of that plane. It was downed, as I say, right next to a 3.5 by 4.5 mile island, small Soviet island called Moneron, and it was taken 41 nautical miles away with the other passengers to the port city of a very large island, the island of Sakhalinsk. And that city was called Novelsk. And from Novelsk, Abraham and the others were taken either the next day or the next 2 days, we're not sure of when that was, across the Tatar Straits to Sovietsky Gaban, that is a Soviet harbor, a port city, and also a center of the KGB coastal guard. At that point, Larry was separated from the rest. He was separated from the pilots that he was with, and the pilots were probably taken to Wrangel Island. But Larry was taken to Moscow in a special transport. And he was taken to the Lubyanka Central KGB prison, and that was in Moscow, and he was interrogated there. And he was one of his interrogators, probably his main interrogator, was the chief of the first directorate of the Soviet Union, and that was Vladimir Kryuchkov. He was one of the people that later would be in the Gang of Eight in the coup against Gorbachev. He was, we don't know how long he was there, and I say we, but I should not say that. I should say they, the informers and the people that had risked their lives in this investigation, brought this information that after the Lubyanka prison, he was taken to the Fortovo military prison, the Fortovo. And the Fortovo prison was also in Moscow, and he underwent further interrogation. The cells were very small, 4.5 feet and possibly a little bit longer, had a bench. Almost freezing water was pumped into the cell, and this was common at the Fortovo. And a person could barely survive. Now, Abraham Shifrin himself had a leg amputated when he got to Israel, I think, rather than before. But that was his living condition. That was his interrogation. It was taken from the Fortovo the same year and brought to a dacha. Now, a dacha is a summer home, but it's a completely private, off the grounds. Anybody can get to it except the KGB. And he was interrogated again with chemicals. And this is what the informants brought down, that they believe that he lost the ability to think independently. Like he understood that he knew what he was, but he was not. His will was taken over by the people that were conducting these experiments. Now, in literature, these are called charm schools, where the Soviets would bring captured people and put them in a certain environment, and they retain their identity as Americans or somebody else in whatever countries before, but are completely subjected to the will of their handler. And Larry underwent that at this dacha near the city of Sukhanova. That was not in Moscow, but not too far from Moscow. After that, he was brought to Karaganda Transit Prison, and after that to Temir Tau. Both of those are in Kazakhstan. And that's where the informants of the research center had come into the picture. They computer aged the picture of Larry as what he would have been, and they presented it to the two wardens of the Temir Tau prison, who identified that as their probable prisoner that had previously been there. Now, Larry has a scar. If you take a look at any of the pictures, a close-up of Larry, from his nostril to his lip. It's a very noticeable scar. And they identified him there until this was until the year that that these people from Israel got to the place, and that was 1995. So the plane was down to 1983, and Larry went through this whole itinerary until he was lost to the investigators in the year 1995.
Wow, that's a very harrowing account. In the last couple of minutes that we have left, Bert, I wonder if you would tell me, I know that Senator Jesse Helms was pursuing leads on this, and he was in correspondence with some of the Soviet leadership and the Russian leadership. Is there anything that could be done at this point by the Trump administration? I know Senator Brown from Massachusetts had expressed some interest in this case, but is there anything being done? What could be done? And then if you would, tell us also about your website and your book, where people can get more information on this if they're interested.
Okay, just very briefly, the new evidence, the new proof of their survival has not yet been brought to the Trump administration or any other agency of it. But just briefly, what it is: for the first time, some of the items of that the passengers carried with them on the plane has shown up at Novelsk. And how they have shown up is tremendously significant. Two cards that were carried by people of the plane, by two people of the plane. One was Sojay Song, and was executive designer of some company that we've be able to trace, and the other was the vice president of the Ingersoll Rand Corporation in Korea. Both of these cards showed up in Novelsk without water stains. That is, they did not pass through the 41 miles from the plane where the plane went down to Novelsk. They had to get there by boat, and we have the transcripts of the rescue missions by boat, or they had to go there by helicopter, and we have the transcripts of the helicopter. And we have the family of the owner of the second card that identified his name on the card. It was actually a card for a rental of a car. This is the vice president of Ingersoll Rand. And okay, so these right now we have enough to go to reopen this case. It takes the administration has got to take the courageous step, probably President Trump or other people in different departments. The Intelligence Committee. We went to the Intelligence Committee and we went to the Committee on Foreign Relations a good number of years ago when we had what I call good, strong evidence. And I don't know if they worked on it. They said that they would contact me if they were going to work on it. So I presume that they did not. But now we need somebody that has contacts with the administration that can bring this new evidence with the old evidence to the people now in the new administration. And one other thing that I would like to come about just by yourself as a journalist, other journalists to come on board and get some of the basic facts and the new evidence that we can present to them, and even documentary makers, filmmakers that would get to work on this. The story is so exciting for the public if they'd ever know about it, and it's so much more true than any fictional account that could ever be made. Reading these transcripts of the Soviets as they tracked KL-07, as they shot it down, knowing it was a civilian plane, and then their hiding of these tapes and these transcripts until, as you mentioned, Jesse Helms got into the picture. And Jesse Helms basically said this to Boris Yeltsin: if you really do want to make a better start with the United States, then come clean. And he asked, where is the camps? Where is the camp that Larry McDonald is? Where are the camps that the other passengers? And asked for many of the documents.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your work in this area, Bert. How can people get your book? And please give us your website so that people can start digging deeper into this. And we ask everybody to please, get this information to people in the Trump administration, to people in Congress. Now is a very, very good time to reopen this investigation and make some progress. But tell us, please, Bert, where can people get your book and what's your website?
Okay, the current material being posted is not in the website yet. So I would suggest that they go to the Facebook page. Now, the Facebook page was originally made for the families, but now it's being used to present the documents. Okay, and the Facebook page is KAL007 Families and Friends. That'll present the material, but the very detailed information is in the website. And the website is www.rescue007.org.
Very good. Well, Bert, thank you so much once again for sharing your research with us, folks out there. You heard it. It is completely unconscionable that a foreign government shot down a civilian American airliner with a sitting congressman on it, kidnapped these people, tortured some of these people, and then nothing was ever done. There needs to be justice. There needs to be answers for the families of the men and women and the children who were on that plane. And Bert, thank you once again, folks. Thank you for watching. Please share this video, get it to the White House, share, subscribe, do all that other great stuff. We will stay on this. Bert, we hope you will as well. Thanks again, everybody, and God bless you.